What's up, people? We're back with more Novelist. So after playing through the game the first time, pretty much with my own personal choices and how I viewed the situation every single time, and then kind of picked my own decisions, I decided to just play through the game again, this time in story mode, but then prioritizing certain characters the entire time and seeing what the outcome will become then, and how much it can change if you just focus on one certain thing. So in this one, I think I'm gonna entirely focus on Dan and him finishing his novel, him focusing entirely on his story, and then probably Linda would come secondary, and then kind of, it sounds cruel, but neglecting their son Tommy. That's just what I'm gonna go with this first time. So we're gonna go story mode, so it takes faster, not in stealth, so I don't have to sneak around every single time. So yeah, I hope you enjoy it. Right, let's see what we had to do. I played through this yesterday and I'm already forgetting. Alright, I believe you have to look for the people. There she is. Read thoughts. No distractions here, just us. And you can enter her memories. Oops.
I think we've done a good job of putting on happy faces for Tommy. If he knows there's something wrong, he's not showing it. We told him this is just a fun family vacation, and he seems to like it here so far. But this might be it for Dan and me. Neither one of us has said the word yet, but I know it's right there under the surface. We've been dancing around it. I can't even bring myself to write the word here. Writing it would be almost as bad as saying it, because once it's there, it becomes real. A thing we have to deal with. I'm not ready for that yet. We agreed to make this a fresh start. I meant it, I think he did too. Now we just have to treat each day like a new beginning. I promise.
Me too.
Me three.
How's it going, Tommy?
I have to make sure no one here bullies Tommy. No, screw that kid, man. Not this time. This time it's all about you.
Tommy rode into town with me today. He saw some kids his age playing on the swings at the park, and I could tell he wanted to go play with them. It got me thinking, did we swing the pendulum too far just to get him away from those bullies? Kids can bounce back quick sometimes. What if this is the worst thing we could have done? Then he asked how Daddy's book was going, and without even thinking, I said, "Great, my man." Felt awful right away. It's a white lie, sure, but why not be honest? When he was younger, he was just a bundle of physical needs, but now he's like a mental, emotional sponge. He's around Linda and me all the time, and I can see him changing every day in 1,000 small ways. That scares the hell out of me. What am I teaching him with a white lie?
Upstairs.
Do you think coming here will help?
It has to.
Maybe we can play later.
Are there any other kids?
We'll have to find out.
Hey, Pumpkin.
Hey, Mommy. Hey, Dad.
Hey, Tommy.
Right, time to look for
Hey,
clues.
Paul, good to hear from you. Listen, things are taking a little longer than expected. I feel good about this one, but I haven't quite brought some of the threads together. It's just an execution hiccup, not a lack of ideas. This is the most complicated book I've ever tried to write, and let's just say I have a newfound respect for guys like Dickens and Joyce who can juggle 10 threads at once without getting lost. I'm figuring some of this stuff out the hard way, I guess you could say. Anyway, the outline I sent you is still good, those are still the beats, those are still the themes I plan to explore. I'll keep you posted. Dan.
How's it going?
Good.
Ooh, can I see?
Not yet.
It's such a crazy thought, the three of us all alone in this house all summer. I never thought we could afford a place like this, but the price surprised us both when we saw it. I wonder if there's something wrong with it. Maybe it has a raccoon problem or a toilet that backs up. Guess we'll find out soon enough. Oh, and I'm painting again. I got set up today. I felt a buzz right away. So much time to work. I haven't had a space like this in forever, probably since I left the studio. I went straight into a new piece today, got lost, looked up to see it was 2 hours later. I think this new one has promise, though I still have some rust to shake off. Speaking of which, I'm going to go check on Dan and see if his new office is doing anything for him. He's pretty frustrated, but he has to figure something out soon, or this place won't be any different than home.
Upstairs. Training shoes.
Barb, how are things? Is school still taking up all of your time, or is anything new going on? We've been up here for a week or so, and I can already tell it's going to be great for painting. There are hardly any distractions, and this house has a room they called the conservatory in the brochure, which really just means it has a lot of windows. Whatever they call it, it's a great space for working. The second floor blocks most of the northern light, but I'll manage. I took Tommy down to the beach today, and you should have seen how excited he was. I wish I'd brought my camera. He kept looking back up at the house like he couldn't believe it was so small from down there. He seems to have taken to this place really well so far, which is such a load off our minds. We didn't know what to expect, but so far, so good. Anyway, let me know how things are going. Yours, Linda.
Mr. and Mrs. Kaplan, I hope this reaches you before you leave for the summer. I know we went over this in my office, but I think Tommy is a wonderful child and I'll feel better putting my recommendation in writing. Children develop at different speeds and Tommy shows no sign of a serious learning disorder. So the most important thing is to be patient and supportive. Make sure he does his reading exercises every day in a calm, loving environment. Make sure not to show disappointment when he struggles, which he will at first. Show encouragement when he succeeds, as self-confidence is critical at his age. If he fails to make progress with the exercises I've included, you may want to take him to the local pediatrician for further recommendations. I hope this is of some help. I look forward to seeing Tommy this September. Mrs. Macmillan. Ideas. Alice listens in on the phone call problem. Ruins sympathy for Alice. Solvable, probably not. Too cheap plus easy. Scene at the lake. Alice sees him there. Could definitely work. Comeuppance for Scott. Alice stays innocent. Sarah sees who Scott really is. Yeah, I think that works. That was his idea for the book. No, not this.
More time painting?
Notebook. Yeah, that's what he wants.
Writer's block. I can't believe I just wrote that. Writer's block. There, again. Those two words are apparently the only damn thing I can write. I don't think it's been this bad since high school. Mr. Holder's class, an essay about Faulkner. Dan Kaplan, little-known author of Tramer's Way and Windsong, has run out of steam. Closed my eyes last night and saw a literary register article about myself. That was the first line. Paul wants 3 chapters next week, and so far I've got 2,000 words so sloppy I can barely read them. I cannot blow my schedule. Paul said Grovefield's been very clear about what comes next if I keep slipping deadlines. Why did this happen as soon as we got here? This was supposed to simplify things, but so far it's been nothing but staring at a blank page. Maybe a walk will help, or a long drive, or a drink.
Oh, here we go again with the drinking. I believe we need to find... Oh no, it's fine. We can read all the clues. He wants to play Racing Roger with his dad. She wants to... have a bottle of wine like they used to. Right, so we're gonna... These are the options. Writer's block, first chapter. The notebook is what Dan prioritizes. Linda's a bottle of wine and hang out with Dan like they used to. And Tommy wants to play with his dad. Racing Roger. Too bad, kid. You got your you got your will last time, or he got his way. Here's the notebook. Alright, and then during this we can kind of compromise with someone. The available compromises, which is going to be Linda, and that's the bottle of wine. It came to Dan in a flash. He'd written down an idea in an old notebook before coming to the house. It had somehow fallen beside the desk in the bedroom, and though had no clue what had given the idea to check there, it was just the same. Instead of relaxing with Linda or playing with Tommy, he just sat down at the typewriter and wrote for hours. It gave him hope that the change in scenery was working. Speed reading again. The next night, Linda decided to have a bottle of wine herself after giving up hope that Dan would take a night off for them to catch up. She was a glass and a half into the bottle when he surprised her by coming down to help her finish it, and though they didn't get a whole night together, it was better than another evening apart. Dan's mind was elsewhere when Tommy tried to get his dad to play Racing Roger with him. Linda found Tommy trying to play the game himself after dinner. She sat down and played a few games with him to cheer him up, but she could tell he really wanted to play with Dan. Interesting. Now the second chapter is the show, whereas in the other one, I believe, it was very different. It seemed like depending on which choices you make, or which person you prioritize, the order of problems in which they kind of occur also changes.
What is it, Mommy?
I don't know yet, honey.
She's painting. I believe it's upstairs.
I knew we should have eaten something with the wine last night. My head is killing me. It would have been worse if Dan hadn't come down to help me finish it, though. I didn't expect to see him, but he does have a way of surprising people. I wish we'd had a full night together, but maybe we can do that soon. I'm glad we got even a little time to catch up. We only got through the first side of the record, but we talked about the studio and my new painting, which was nice. It's good to know he's at least trying. Oh, what if I... Has it been 5 years already? I still remember the thought that blindsided me when I saw Tommy for the first time. He's my new creative work. TJ gave me such a look when I told her I was going to cut back on my painting, but she doesn't have any kids, so there's no way she could understand. It's hard to top creating an entire person. Maybe she thought Dan told me I had to stay home. That would have been a very short conversation. Still, I can't ignore the fact that it's time to figure out what on hold means. What would it look like to go back full-time? Do I want to? Big news, Barb. I'm putting on a show. Can you believe it? I've already got butterflies. It's been so long. I'm glad it's a small gallery so I can ease my way back into things a bit. And I want to do it right. I'd forgotten how much work goes into things that aren't painting when it's time to put on a gallery. You know I could never stand all the logistical rigmarole. Plus I have a piece I really want to finish before the show. So much to do. I want to take it seriously and go through the whole process though, because if the show goes well, who knows? Hope to hear from you, and hope you can come, of course. Yours always, Linda.
This is very interesting. Because I feel like the way it went last time, it kind of threads together a bit better. Because I believe during the second one, in the last one, the second one was inheritance, where he gave her like the money so she could pursue her painting a bit more, and here immediately she's already into her painting, giving a show and such. So I don't know. It's interesting though that the order changes because of the choices that you've made. Mrs. Kaplan, we're thrilled to be exhibiting your work Thursday. I know this all came together a little last minute, but our secretary is only part-time and she sometimes gets behind. I've sent along some forms and samples from the ad we plan to run in this week's paper. I know it's probably the last thing you want to worry about right now, but what's the point of putting on a show if no one knows about it? Anyhow, I know this is all a bit hectic, but while we might be small, we have a lot of heart, and we're very excited about your show. Nicole Adams, Westlake Gallery. Aww.
Right down there.
Cool. Can we go?
Aw, he seems so sad. Poor Tommy. He's not gonna be happy in this version at least. She wants the promo forms, right? I remember that.
Having fun today?
Yeah.
Hey, what's wrong?
Broke through the fog last night. I found my notebook and it was all right there. Scott takes Alice to the lake to feed the swans and he's too self-absorbed to switch up his go-to move, and Sarah's there waiting to confront him. He ends up losing them both. It's simple, but it's a clean way to hit the past as anchor theme. I have no clue how I forgot that part, but it doesn't matter now. It's like a dam broke. I got the chapters to Paul on schedule, with enough time to do first-pass revisions. God, I'm glad that's over.
At least this book is going great now. The literary register, yeah, I remember that.
It just never stops. Every time I plot something I think will hold together, it falls to pieces. This thing was supposed to be done months ago, but the further I get, the harder it is to make it all work. Nothing's ever as simple as it seems at first. I'll think about a problem for days, finally come up with a fix, and then realize it breaks something somewhere else. I can barely hold all the threads together. Sometimes this thing just feels too big for me and I want to burn it and walk away. But what else would I do? And the deadlines don't help either. I can't think harder or faster. This stuff comes when it comes, and getting stressed out about it just makes it harder to get the words down. Like right now, I'm writing about the thing instead of working on the thing. Damn it, Dan, get to work.
Get it together, man. Friday rap draft, Saturday family day, Sunday dialogue pass, which fix Alice, revisions when...
Paul. Hey man, if I'd known my letter would set you off like that, I wouldn't have written. My fault. Let's both just calm down. I see now that it was stupid to ask if you knew any art agents. That's like you asking me if I know any professional sculptors. Dumb question, point taken. But believe me, no one's more worried about the schedule than I am. I think about it every day. I can't get away from it. Most nights I start thinking about it and can't stop. My heart starts beating out of control and I have to get up and try to work just to calm down. I'm not slacking off, man. I shouldn't have made you think I was focused on anything else. I'll get everything sorted out. Seriously, Dan.
Seriously, Dan. In arts and entertainment news, the Westlake Gallery has announced a show by visiting artist Linda Kaplan. A resident of Laurenton, Mrs. Kaplan is visiting the coast with her family and has completed a new series she describes as an expression of restrained emotion using society's imposition on nature as a lens. Details of the show will be forthcoming. Local art enthusiasts will be doubly pleased to learn that the community center will be burned down. I believe we can... No, we need to search for more Tommy clues. Let's just read what he wants. He wants a typewriter. This note is good for one adventure. Signed, Daddy. No. Take my bucket. Oh. Unless you're talking about a KFC bucket, we ain't doing that. Typewriter. So this storyline or the path that I'm taking is very career focused, and then you kind of see everything underneath it, I guess, either being compromised or just crumbling underneath him. Are we gonna read this again? Sure, why not? From the desk of Harold Baxter, January 17, 1948. I am now certain there's something strange with the light here. It must be those windows. I was reviewing old deeds in the living area and saw some sort of flash of light out of the corner of my eye. I would assume the elevation would put this ocean too far away for the sun to reflect off a wave, but perhaps not. I looked, but there was nothing there except a strange shimmer, like heat above the asphalt. But this is about kind of the thing that you are, which is like a ghost or something. And if you're playing story mode and you can't be detected, and I feel like this entire passage is like not even necessary. So I'm not gonna read those while we're in the compromising part. Tommy needs... No, screw Tommy. Dan couldn't get past the thought that missing yet another deadline would drive one more nail into his career's coffin, so he holed up in his office and wrote all weekend. He found the rhythm and stayed with it as long as he could, eating meals at his desk instead of with his family. The non-stop clacking of the typewriter filled the house. Dan couldn't find the time to write Linda's promotional materials from scratch, so he offered to stay up late Saturday night, help her with fine-tune the copy. Her take on the ad, heavier on visuals than originally planned, needed only minor wordsmithing, and the late night paid off with an ad they were proud of. Tommy spent Saturday playing by the window, looking out at the beach and wishing his dad wasn't so busy doing grown-up things. He tried to use the shovel that came with the bucket as a jump for his cars, but it was too light and kept sliding out of the way. It was weeks before he played with his bucket again. Poor bucket, even the bucket suffering from this.
I gotta call Paul again.
funeral. This is when her grandmother passes away. Mark the 21st of this month on your calendars. For only one day, watch the world famous Fighter 5 as they scream across the sky. Scream? Witness death-defying feats of flying in a display unlike anything you've ever seen, guaranteed to blow you away. Don't miss it.
I just got off the phone with Mom. She told me about Grandma Joe. I know we expected it sooner rather than later, but this is hitting me so much harder than when Granddad died last year. Do you remember going to Grandma Joe's house after school on Wednesdays and playing until Mom got off work? How Grandma Joe always had a surprise for us, even if it was just cookies in the oven. She'd always time it so the whole house would smell like them when we got there. I hope the minister captures those little moments because they don't seem as little now. I wish the circumstances were different, but it will still be good to see you at the funeral. What am I saying? You probably won't even get this until after the funeral. I guess I just needed to write anyway. Love, Linda.
Dan, big news. Got a call from Bracket Boys in Eugene and they want you to do a reading from Windsong, maybe even some Q&A, some book signings, all that good stuff. I think you should do it. In fact, I'm going to be pretty pissed if you don't. Bracket is a big outlet, so if this goes well, orders for the new book will definitely go up. I don't need to remind you how long it's been since Tramer's Way came out. If you don't keep your name out there, no one will even notice when you finish the new book, whatever it's called. Hell, speaking of the new one, why don't you read some of it too? Maybe the second chapter you sent me last month. That one was pretty good. Bracket Books, Eugene the 21st. See you there. Paul. P.S. You know the long game, right? Nailing this one could mean a big advantage or advance on the next book. Nothing in the kitchen.
Hi, honey.
What do I say? Up in heaven.
I walked out to the bluff to remember Grandma Joe and say goodbye. And on the way back, I started thinking about what it really means to have a family, to make that your focus. She seemed to take such joy in being surrounded by her family, providing for them, taking care of them. I hope I never took that for granted. When I got back to the house, a question hit me that I can't get out of my head. What will Tommy think about Dan and me when he gets older? And what if Tommy has kids of his own? I can't even begin to think of myself as a grandmother. I haven't even been a mother for that long, and I'm still feeling my way through what it means to be a good one. At least I'll always have an example. I miss you, Grandma Joe, and I'll never forget you. I promise. We just got back from the show, and I still don't know how I feel about it. The turnout was okay, and I did sell a piece. I learned a long time ago to never complain about selling anything, no matter how small, so that's good, no matter what. But part of me also feels like the glass was half empty. The promo was okay, but I think the abstract layout was a little too weird for the paper. I really should have gone with more text. Then again, it was good of Dan to have helped with that part at all, so who knows how bad it would have been without that. I guess I was most excited to see what kind of feelings the show would bring back up, and it was just too half-hearted to know. Disappointment and excitement in equal parts. I still have some thinking to do.
So this is where her art gallery, because she chose to compromise, this is kind of where it goes the way it goes now, kind of halfway. Not a big success, but not an entire failure either. So she's having mixed feelings about it now, whereas in the other one she was very disappointed. So I think later on, if we're going to focus on her part entirely, this is going to be her art gallery is going to be a a success with Dan's help. So it's interesting to see that those things change. How you whenever you pick them, it seems like the I don't know how the some things have. Yeah, how do I say this? I just feel like because Tommy's a child, the choices that you make for him don't affect him in the big picture or in a big way at that moment as they do with the grown-up person, you know, because he's a child. But the problems that he mainly had was like learning, not really learning disability, but just being behind in his learning and being a bit slower. So that's obviously stuff that would hinder him in his life later on when he's grown up. So that's interesting as well. That she learned about the news. It's his memory.
Is she in heaven?
I'm sure she is, honey.
Afford to miss it. Seems like he's wondering whether he can.
Lynn, I'm so sorry. Tell me what I can do.
Just be here for me.
Whether he can afford to actually not go to the funeral, which he knows means a lot to her.
Did it. Got it to Paul on Monday and just about dropped on the spot. Barely slept Sunday night, but damn it, I got it in. Abject terror is a pretty strong motivator. Linda understood, I guess. She had her own deadline, so at least she could identify, but in the end it was still a choice, and she didn't let me off the hook. Can't blame her, really. Sometimes you just have to make tough calls. That's why they're called tough calls.
Exactly. Tough calls. We need to find for Dan for more clues, which would most likely be upstairs.
Most of you here knew my grandmother. For those who didn't, I truly wish you had. She was an example for all of us. Her warmth, her caring, and her smile were impossible to forget. It's still hard for me to believe she's gone. Without her, the world is...
Without her, the world is a bad place. She used to be a crime fighter.
Oh no. Joe's funeral's the same day as the signing in Eugene, and Paul says they can't move it. He'll understand if I bail because he knows Linda, but Grovefield is a different story. They won't give a damn why I missed it. They'll just get a memo and put it in a spreadsheet somewhere and write me off just a little bit more. And it's not just the timing. If I do the reading, I've got to get that chapter in shape. It's not even remotely ready for anyone to see it. Can't worry about what Paul says. He's my agent. He's supposed to stroke me. And what about Tommy?
He's really obsessed with space. Not that I blame him, space is awesome. Alright, let's read their thoughts. What's the magazine? Well, too bad. Chapter. He needs to call and buy a ticket. Alright, the chapter. And then compromise with Linda, the call. Where's the phone? Whispering time. Oops.
Why
Dan knew his books had drifted almost completely out of the public's eye, and he couldn't turn down the chance to get his work back into the literary spotlight. He drove to Eugene on the 21st and was surprised to see a line out of the door at Bracken Books. Paul had delivered. Dan wasn't completely happy with the chapter he read, but the crowd certainly seemed to like it. He left Eugene with a confidence boost that carried him for days. He knew he couldn't ignore Grandma Joe's passing completely, though, so he flew into Denver the night before the funeral and attended the visitation. He was on the ground for less than 12 hours before having to fly back out, and Linda was hurt that he didn't go to the services as well, but she knew he was trying to make the best of a difficult situation. When Dan told Tommy they wouldn't be able to go to the show, Tommy had a crying fit and tried to tear up the magazine. It worried his parents. He hadn't thrown a fit like that for almost a year. It was exactly the kind of thing they'd hoped to avoid by spending the summer in such a quiet, peaceful place. So this is exactly the choice that I made in my story as well, I suppose. And that's how the Kaplans' first month at the house on the cliff came to an end. Dan was ecstatic about the progress he'd made on the book. He sent Paul a number of excerpts and wasn't a bit surprised to get a gushing phone call a few days later. "Whatever you're doing, man, keep doing it," Paul said, although he didn't know the price Dan was paying for such great work. The next day, Dan made good on a promise to take Tommy into the woods and look for arrowheads, though he did more out of sense of obligation than any real enthusiasm. They'd barely made it to the woods before Tommy told it was time to go back. Tommy started to cry, but Dan was unmoved. They came back home without a single arrowhead. A few nights later, Dan and Linda got a babysitter and went out for a date, but they both felt like they were going through the motions and could barely carry a conversation. They knew their first month at the house hadn't gone well, that their trip was not saving their marriage as they'd hoped. What could have been a pleasant night out was awkward and troubling instead. They still had 2 more months on the coast, and the story was just beginning. Wow. So, because the fact that he entirely focuses on his book, 2 things are suffering. Both his marriage as well as his son. It seems like when you pick career over anything, over the other things, the other 2 suffer heavily from it. Whereas if you kind of, in the previous one that I played, at the end he kind of didn't prioritize. Well, you should watch it, but in the end he didn't prioritize his book as much. His son turned out to be a very successful drawer, drawer. That's the occupation, and what's it called? And their marriage turned out to be saved. So in this chapter, it's definitely not going well.
Bit.
Be careful, honey.
Oh, he's downstairs. Oh my god, his dad seems angry. Aw, look at the picture. He's like, "What did I do?" Poor Tommy. We'll make it up to you in another one.
Going to the funeral alone was hard. There's a part of me that understands why Dan couldn't come, but I don't think I'll ever get over him not being there. What would Grandma Joe have thought? She probably would have had the perfect advice, something like what she used to say about living a balanced life, not just a balanced week. Dan coming to the visitation did at least make it a little more bearable. I have to give him that. I'm going out for a hike.
Okay, be safe.
This one.
Hey, honey, yeah.
he's feeling very good about his book, which is what we're trying to achieve, so we're doing very well.
You know, could always be better.
How was work?
Even though he doesn't sound completely satisfied yet.
Still can't believe how many people showed up at the reading. Maybe I haven't faded into obscurity just yet. But forget about the publicity. That's fleeting. Won't matter in the end. The best thing was having a deadline and hammering on that chapter. I think I finally evened out the voice, and I think Scott's backstory is finally settled. Never underestimate the motivational power of potential public humiliation.
Right, time to find clues.
3 days in, I'm still trying to figure out where to take the new piece. It's changing as I go, which is always exciting and sort of the point, but this one feels a little aimless. I keep snapping out of a daze and realizing I've been staring out the window for 5 minutes instead of working. When we first got here, I was excited to have a studio with so many windows and so much natural light, but now it feels almost like a cage. Why be this close to nature but not be, well, in it? Actually, cage isn't the right word. This place is beautiful, and there are so many more trees than back home. I guess it's more of a reminder when it's right there the whole time, not just an idea or something for the weekend. Anyway, back to the painting. I'm not going to get anything done on it sitting here writing. Anne, what's the latest with you? I hope you're doing better than I am. I'm going a little stir-crazy. Dan loves it here, but he's just writing all day long, so he could be anywhere. I could use a change of scenery. I've walked every trail in the woods and even started a few of my own. It's great getting away from the city, but I wouldn't exactly call this roughing it. Tommy's certainly having a good time exploring the woods. Sometimes we go together, and if I'm in the studio, he knows he can play outside where I can see him, and to stay away from the cliff. Do you remember when we were kids trying to jump the creek in the woods behind the house? I think Tommy's getting into that phase now, climbing trees and all that. Oops, I got a little carried away there. You probably don't need to hear about all of our outdoor adventures. Sorry about that. Well, let me know how you're doing. Love, Linda.
Home to a stunning display of natural beauty. Ochoko National Forest is a perfect destination for hunters, wilderness enthusiasts, and weekend campers alike. One-of-a-kind rock formations provide exciting challenges for climbers. The many canyons offer scenic hiking experience, and the swimming opportunities are many. Located less than 5 hours from Portland and less than 6 from the Central Coast, Ochoko is a perfect place for a summer getaway. For more information or to request a brochure, please call the ranger station at 901-706-555-402.
Not much.
Oops.
Hey, hon. What you doing?
I've got to stay on the book. This is my chance to do something people remember, something that matters. If this one isn't good enough, there might not even be a next one. Certainly not one without all sorts of publisher strings attached. This is why we saved up enough to take the summer off. I'm out of excuses. Of course, a long weekend would be fun, but that's also the problem. How do you stay hungry when you've gotten used to weekend getaways? How do you recapture that feeling of being a broke college kid chasing a dream? How do you get back out on that limb again, scared it's going to break, but inching out anyway? Listen to me. Wound up so tight. Maybe taking one night off might help after all.
No! Don't take a night off. We're going all out. This is an opportunity, not a burden. Jim said he'd never make it. He said you're a joke. An idea that is dangerous is unworthy of being called an idea at all. Oscar Wilde. 1 page at a time. Could be working a regular job right now. Do not fear death so much, but rather the inadequate life. Bertolt Brecht.
Penny, thanks so much for your letter. It made my day. Tramer's Way came out a while ago now, so I don't get letters like this too often. Writing can be a pretty isolating profession at times, which makes it a big boost to hear that someone out there is getting something from my work. Your support means the world to me. To answer your question, I'm indeed in the midst of writing a new book. I don't have a title or a release date yet, but I'm plugging away on it slowly but surely. I plan to finish it by the end of summer, and I truly hope you enjoy it when it comes out. Thanks again for your kind words. Dan Kaplan.
Dan the man. The readers of Eugene and the surrounding area, judging by the turnout, got a rare treat when author Dan Kaplan arrived for a combination reading and book signing. He shared a selection from his most recent work, still untitled, and due in stores this fall. And if it was any indication, his fans are in for a treat. Although the book isn't finished, Kaplan said that it will be very soon. Alright. You can read all of their thoughts, what they want. Firewood. Oh, he wants to go out for a night. Camping. Tommy boy.
Fresh air.
Tommy. He's not in the kitchen. What would a kid do in the kitchen? Don't keep your door closed. What were you doing? What were you doing? Look at me. Look at me, son. Oops. No, not again. He wants the rocket. Firewood. Where would firewood be? By the door? Yeah. Compromising with Linda, camping pack, which is upstairs. Oh, whispering. Does look beautiful. Might be good for him. Why should I? Dan put his book first and explained that he simply didn't have time for a longer trip. He tried to make it up to them for a one-night beach camping trip where he happened to get a new ideas for a book. The night off relaxed him, and by noon the next day he was back at his typewriter working with renewed purpose. Dan knew he couldn't make time for a long camping trip. It was important to his wife though, so he promised her that as soon as things settled down he would go on a trip. She was disappointed but knew that he was trying to make the best and that a rain check was better than nothing. Tommy was so proud of finding the free admission special for Booster Bay that it hurt him even more when he didn't go. He couldn't understand why his parents hadn't taken him when it didn't cost any money. He didn't play with this rocket for a week. Poor kid, he takes out his disappointment out on his toys. It's not really anger or anything, he just... Full house. Guy, probably not expecting to hear from me, were you? You know I'm all about surprises. Look, we're gonna head up to the coast next weekend. We're doing the drive from LA to Seattle. I have an interview up there on Tuesday, and Kelly has a friend who's gonna introduce her to some casting people from Vancouver. Can we crash at your place on the way up? We should be pulling through next Friday. I was thinking we could use it as an excuse to jam on our books. I want to see your new stuff, and I have a draft I want you to take a look at. I'm way beyond knowing what's good or not with my work, so I could really use your advice. And you know, I'll give it to you straight about your new book. Is there a title yet? Could be an impromptu writer's workshop, I guess. Anyway, I think it'd be fun. Let me know. T. Mr. T. Honey, I'm sorry it's been so long since my last letter, but We've been all over the place. Have you gotten settled into that big house yet? I hope getting away from everything has been help for you and Dan. I'm writing because, speaking of getting away, your father and I are going to take a road trip. I found some good AARP deals, and with your father only working part-time, it wasn't very hard to arrange time off. It's been too long since our last trip. I've always enjoyed changes of scenery, and as you're hopefully learning, it can be just the thing a marriage needs. Lord knows it's helped us. The trip won't take us close enough to the shore to come visit. I'm sorry to say, and if you will write me back, we'll be gone before your letter arrives. We'll call if one of our motels has long distance. But if we don't get a chance to call, send my love to Dan and Thomas. You know your father and I will want the best for you all. Love, Mommy. Davy can bring over his jet. Davy is his friend.
Mommy. Can Davy sleep over?
Let me call his mommy.
Aw, still angry, Dad. Nothing's gonna change if he doesn't even try.
I thought Tommy was sleeping with us.
I'm checking to see if this is a fold-out. I just can't understand Dan sometimes. Is he blind? Did he not see Tommy racing all over the house with his rocket? Didn't he hear how proud Tommy was that he heard the ad about getting in free? I told Dan we should go to Booster Bay, but for some ridiculous reason he insisted he was more interested in camping. I can't watch him do this to Tommy much longer. I'm starting to think about... No. I'll give him another chance. One more.
Wow. This is also where you see that one decision doesn't necessarily only affect that problem. For example, if he decided to go with Tommy in the last one, she would have been fine with it because she realized she did it for Tommy, and she realized that he needs to be a dad as well, and that it was in best interest for their son. But because he chose something for himself and his son suffered from it, she's getting upset at him for as well. So that's another very interesting. It seems like when you just go for full career, your marriage as well as your bond with your son both just go downhill really, really fast. Check sofa, call Chamber of Commerce, hotels in town, double check T&K trip when Dan gets back. His door is closed again, seriously. That's another thing, maybe because he feels very upset towards his dad, that's why his door is closed.
I took Tynan up on the book jam. He hasn't seen a word of my new book, and fresh eyes are priceless. He bailed me out on Tramer's Way. I hope he understands how much of that book worked because of him. I still remember when we were walking to the pond and he had the idea about using newspaper clips and police reports. Of course, no matter how many times I tell interviewers it was his idea, they just keep giving me the credit. Maybe they just want the tidy auteur version. Oh well, can't change that. Let's just hope he has an idea for this one too. Friday can't get here soon enough.
He's really depending on his friend. We already read that. For his friend to kind of help him with the book, to say the least. See his stuff too. Of course, that's where you would probably get inspiration as a writer as well, seeing someone else's work and where they kind of, how they start with things that they're struggling with, for example. You could help each other out with that. So, yeah, this can help him a lot.
What about Tommy?
Man, and his family still sits at their strangest places ever.
I could tell Linda and Tommy were disappointed, but I wouldn't have been any fun on vacation anyway. Too stressed about getting to the finish line. I did try to have a little fun with the bonfire, which could have been described as roaring, for a good 30-minute period anyway. Getting out of the house turned out to be a good idea too. Spending the night on the beach reminded me of a church retreat we did back in 7th grade. The smell of the bonfire gave me such a strong memory of a crush I had on Jenny something. Or was it Jennifer? I can't remember. But I do remember those flushed schoolboy emotions. I think I can use those for the scene at the dance.
That's good as well for your book, to kind of take real life emotions from yourself, because then you probably be able to describe those emotions the best because you've experienced them yourself. I talked to Davy's parents and they're okay with him sleeping over. They said they'd take care of Tommy some weekend in return. I know the timing isn't great, but maybe we can work out something. Let's talk when you get up. Linnapin.
Good news. Mom called today with a change of plans. They made better time on the first leg of the trip than they expected, and they're coming to visit. Bad news, they want to come this weekend. Did Dan tell Tynan they could stay here for sure, or is that still up in the air? I'll ask after dinner. She sounded cheerful enough on the phone, though I can't help wondering if they took this trip because they hit another rough patch. I hope not. I hope they just want to see Tommy and have a classic Mears family feast, though maybe seeing how they've ended up will be good perspective for Dan and me. Speaking of which, Dad better not get nosy. I've told him 1,000,000 times that my marriage is not his business. Maybe I'll try the thing Christine told me. When someone asks you something private, just say, "Why do you ask?" Put it back on them and see if they've actually got a reason to get into your business. Yeah, I've got to remember to try that. We'll see how he answers that one.
I gotta remember that one as well. Someone asked me, why do you ask? Why are you interested? You cannot know. You have no right. Alright, we can read all of the thoughts now for the final clue. Fishing poles. Alright, he wants to go fishing with that Tynan guy. Sweater, and he has something. I believe it was blue sheets actually. But he's in his... Can we just... Kid, get the hell out of here.
Yeah, alright.
Open the door right now. Bad daddy is coming. Angry dad. Bam, bam. I can peek through it. What are you up to, son? Why can't I peek through this door? Damn it. I can peek through his bathroom. Where is it? There it is. Ah, can't see it. Well, seems like we're not gonna even be able to go for his option. Not what that we were going for, but I'm pretty sure it was the blue sheets that he would use to make a fort out of with his friend. I remember because I chose that as secondary option, I think. Fishing poles. Oh, there he is. Now you're coming out? Yeah, blue sheets, which would be that. Oh, fishing poles. It's all about Dan, the man, in this one. Compromise with Linda. Sweater. That's upstairs in their bedroom. Dan was too excited about getting Tynan's feedback to cancel the visit. He found that the fishing poles were in great shape and he and his friend hit it off like they'd seen each other yesterday. Linda told them they would find a small pond in the woods, and the trip paid off not only in the fresh fish for dinner but in new ideas for the book as well. Linda was glad they were able to make room for everyone, but with so much going on in the house, she didn't get as much time as she would have liked to visit her parents. They were glad to be able to come at all, though Linda didn't get a chance to pull her mother inside and see how her parents were doing. Poor Tommy. Tommy cried when Dan told him that Davy wouldn't be able to sleep over and that the fact that the extra seats were used for grown-up house guests instead of a sofa fort only upset him more. He didn't want to sleep with his parents, and in the middle of the night, he woke up and tried to get back into his room, causing an embarrassing scene. Holy, what did he walk on in? It was too much for Tommy. He just couldn't understand why his daddy didn't love him anymore. That's cruel. Linda's attempt to explain that daddy had a lot on his mind did nothing to help. And even though she and Dan weren't fighting, she couldn't let Dan keep neglecting Tommy. Her maternal instincts took over and she decided to take Tommy back home for the rest of the summer and tried to give him the happiest home she could. She called her sister to pick her up, and after a tearful goodbye with her husband, he and Tommy, what? An unexpected exit. This is a chapter we haven't had before. Things hasn't gone as planned for the family. Did they really leave? Read Linda's letter on the coffee table.
Dan, how did we get here? I love you, but I just don't know how you could treat Tommy like this. He's our son. I'm so confused right now. Please call me so we can talk it over. You can't just stay up there working on your book like nothing happened. Don't put your novel ahead of your family. Maybe we can still make this work. Yours, Linda.
See, this is what can happen when you keep prioritizing one thing above your family. It can obviously destroy your family. Either call her or go back to work. Wow. Oh my, he seems depressed though. We're just gonna go all out book. That's what I said I would do, so that's what we're going to do. And that's how the Kaplan's summer in the house on the cliff came to an end. It was much more than a single season on the coast. Dan's choices there would come to define the rest of his life. Oh my god. Paul was floored when he got to Dan's final draft. Grofield literally stopped the presses on other books to meet them and for Dan's, and that November he won the National Book Award. His career took off, and after almost a dozen more novels, he retired as one of the most respected authors in American literature. He never forgot that summer. He's sleeping alone though. Dan wasn't able to make it work with Linda. In September, she asked for a divorce, and by November it was finalized. 2 years later, she met someone at an art exhibit, and within a year they were married. But Dan never learned to balance his career with a partner, and he spent the rest of his life in a series of fleeting, shallow relationships. But by the time Tommy went back to school, he was a wreck. His self-confidence was gone, his reading was even further behind than previous year, and he was bullied mercilessly. He withdrew from his father, knowing that Dan would never be a source of support for him, and he remained a loner throughout his high school. By his early 20s, he was bouncing from one dead-end job to another, unable to maintain friendship or any resemblance of happiness. Wow. Dan would look back on that summer from time to time and wonder why he had made the choices he had. He never quite shook the feeling that the voice in his head had been more than just a voice, and in quiet moments he had even imagined he had been a character in someone else's novel. At times, he was almost sure of it. Wow, so that's the end of this. This is what happens when you prioritize work over anything else, apparently. But is that really... I'm just gonna let the credits go.
With every rock I'm falling towards your safety net. Oh, grassy river, Everglades, we failed to grow a sugar cane. I never learned to show my fate to you, 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 you. To you, 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 you. To you, 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 you.
So yeah, that is what ends up happening. His career becomes a huge success, but his marriage as well as his fatherhood or something just suffers from it. And that's pretty much the only thing he has going for in his life at that point. And after that, his son doesn't want anything to do with him. His wife got divorced and she married someone else, so she's happy. I guess this is where you see that in life you should always balance things for it to work out the best in multiple ways, not just one. Wow, this game is really amazing. This is so different from the first result, or yeah, ending. Wow, I'm just gonna see what happens when we go. I believe in the next one we're gonna go for Linda completely, and then completely neglect Dan. I think that's what we're gonna do. Alright, thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe for more. Peace.